This 39 Dunedin News Bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on 39 Dunedin News, virtual reality equipment is deployed to get things moving in Otago Museum's new complex. A slam dunk for Basketball Otago as a sizable grant leads to the best ever turnout for one of its programs. And we'll find out why the agricultural sector is going to benefit from the hard work of one local scientist. Good evening, Dunedin. I'm Rebecca Dupree. Otago Museum staff are preparing to take locals on a journey through space. A mini planetarium is being installed as staff create shows for the full-size complex. And virtual reality equipment is being used to speed things along.
Space, the final frontier. And it won't be long before locals get a much closer look. That's because the Otago Museum's brought in staff to prepare the shows for its planetarium.
So I've just been overseas to Utah where I've been learning how to operate the planetarium software that we're going to specifically be using, which has been really great, and it means that we're going to be able to do all sorts of fantastic things with that planetarium when it's up and running.
Jones says the planetarium will be open by the end of the year. But while it's being built, she's testing the shows here. She says filming and animating for the facility is much more complex than regular film production.
For the dome stuff that we do, everything's got to be shot with a fisheye lens, so it's all 360 degrees bigger than your TVs, 4K by 4K, which is 4,000 pixels wide by 4,000 high, and then we just shrink that down to the dome size.
This virtual reality headset's playing a big role in the planetarium preparations. It's being used to simulate what locals will experience in the finished facility.
We're talking as if you were sitting in the planetarium itself. You can actually see what's being projected around you. And that's also useful for us in a slightly different way from the mini dome because we get the exact dimensions of the big dome that we're going to be installing.
While she feels a bit silly wearing the goggles, Jones says they're extremely useful, especially as work on the Otago Museum's planetarium ramps up to get the doors open before the end of the year. David DeLorean, 39 Dunedin News.
Dunedin landlords will be required to meet minimum housing standards under tenancy law changes. The government has announced new requirements for insulation and fire safety. Ceiling and underfloor insulation and smoke alarms will become mandatory, with social housing needing both by the start of July next year. All other rental properties will require smoke alarms by July 2016 and insulation by July 2019. Local MP David Clark says the moves are a step in the right direction, but he'd like to see it go further. Clark believes dampness and a lack of clean heating sources like heat pumps are still a major problem in Dunedin. Basketball Otago is rising from the ashes with help from a major financial grant. The embattled organisation has received several $1,000s in funding, and that's led to an all-time record turnout to a skills development program.
Jam-packed. Almost 100 kids participate in this Basketball Otago skills development program. It's been made free, thanks to several $1,000s of funding from a local trust. And that's prompted these record numbers.
We usually only go 1 week, and we're usually lucky if we get over 30. And so we're wrapped with the turnout that we've got, you know.
Brock Banks says extra coaches and volunteers have had to come in to deal with the numbers. Some of those coaches are prominent Kiwi basketballers. They've got the kids playing a wide variety of games and drills. A good experience to introduce local kids to life on the court.
A lot of the kids who don't play basketball came because it was free, which is good. It's
been a challenging few months for Basketball Otago, but the organisation's running full steam ahead now, back in local hands. Brock Banks says it's great to see the group's fortunes changing.
I've always said that basketball's been strong in Otago. The financial issues aside, we've always been strong at the grassroots, and this is proof of that. You know, our competitions numbers, our development program's been good. Everything's been good at the base of the organisation.
Everyone's hopeful the record turnout will see more kids playing here in the future. But for now, the focus is on the court. and teaching these tweens a thing or two about basketball. David DeLorean, 39, Dunedin News.
Local authorities say a 24-year-old man put himself at risk by choosing to tramp in poor weather conditions near Middlemarch. Police were called to assist when the man failed to return by yesterday afternoon. They were unable to deploy a helicopter due to the wintry conditions, but a search and rescue group were able to locate the man just after 7 o'clock last night thanks to an emergency beacon. He was taken to hospital with mild hypothermia. Police say given the weather conditions, the man placed not only himself but the safety of those searching for him at risk. Years of international research is paying off for one University of Otago scientist. Staff at the Department of Microbiology and Immunology have been looking at ways to ensure plants can defend themselves against infection, and it's the agricultural sector that's set to benefit.
Getting a closer look. Professor Clive Bronson is part of an international research team looking into the relationships plants form with bacteria. And after several years of research, they've made a discovery.
We've discovered the plant receptor or protein that surveils the environment of the plant to recognise this polysaccharide and distinguish whether it's good or bad.
What the research team have discovered is that there's a type of dress code when it comes to bacteria. An outer coating that Bronson says a plant can recognise as being either good or bad.
Bacteria can sweet talk their ways into a plant, that if I've got the right dress code, they're allowed in, they're conducted to the table and they can feast and enjoy a mutual interaction with the plant. If they've got the wrong dress code, then they're essentially thrown out, they're denied.
The research is a collaboration between the University of Otago and a handful of international institutions, led for the past 8 years by researchers in Denmark. And Bronson says being able to pool knowledge and resources is beneficial to the research.
We made a discovery about this outer surface being important, and we then talked to these folk in Denmark, and it was recognised that there's tremendous potential to use the plant genetics that they have and the bacterial genetics that we were providing to try and really understand how the plants are recognising these bacteria. So that was the start of the collaboration.
Bronson says now the goal is to discover whether good bacteria can be manipulated to be most favourably recognised by the plant, opening up a raft of future research avenues to keep the international team busy for the next 8 years. Ruby McAndrew, 39, Dunedin News.
Still to come on 39 Dunedin News, we find out why local community boards are unhappy about proposed downsizing and representation reductions. And we're at the university where students are browsing stalls.
Here's something else to look forward to sinking your teeth into every weekend with the Otago Daily Times, the Weekend Mix, your guide to what's hot in fashion, entertainment, food and more. New weekend magazine in your ODT. Pick up your copy this Saturday.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
Wake up time and another frantic day ahead for Haraway's Oat Singles. With 3 delicious flavours in each pack, they don't last long with this family. They're so convenient and tasty, and they're ready in seconds. Haraway's Oat Singles are the ideal breakfast or snack on the run for today's busy families. And there's a flavour to suit everyone. Beat the rush and make sure you get your favourite flavour. Haraway's Oat Singles. Try new Kiwi Favourites Caramel Variety Pack.
Got a hankering to create? Then head on down to Needle and Thread at 441 Princess Street. Needle and Thread is your first choice for a great range of quilting, sewing, knitting, supplies and tuition. With so many options, you will be inspired. Needle and Thread, phone 479 2771.
Yeah, we're heading down George Street, down B, tip of the hat to the people we meet in southern skies. Take your place, take your place, take your place in the world. Take your place, take your place in the world.
Moving around the corner, overseas, Best Removals Otago Limited, specialists in household removals and business relocations, as well as packing materials, secure storage. Best Removals can do it all. 0800 266 834.
Discover New Zealand's most innovative museum, Toitu Otago Settlers Museum. 14 stunning galleries, 3 distinct architectural styles, and 1 million intriguing stories are yours to discover at Toitu Otago Settlers Museum. Open daily next to Dunedin Railway Station and with free admission. Toitu Otago Settlers Museum.
For 30 years, Southern Clams have harvested New Zealand littleneck clams in the coastal waters of Otago. Hand harvesting to order at the right place and time ensures perfection of every clam you eat. New Zealand littleneck clams, harvested for you by Southern Clams.
Hedges are something we almost take for granted. A good hedge needs regular maintenance to look its best and to add value and character to your property. For all your hedge care needs, call the team at SGC Services on 0800 783 453.
Welcome back. An Otago Polytechnic staff member has been chosen as a coach for a national mentoring program. Eva Gluius is the only Polytechnic worker in the country chosen to coach in the Better by Design program. She'll be teaching businesses across New Zealand how to be innovative and internationally competitive. Gluius previously coached in 2013. She says the prospect of working with top Kiwi business leaders is exciting. And on that note, let's take a look at today's financials. And the NZX 50 has closed the day down 30 points. It's now 5,737. The Dow Jones is down 261 points. And to the exchange rates, the Kiwi dollar is down against the Australian, but we are up against the other currencies we follow. An independent review of local government has recommended a raft of changes. Among those are several relating to Dunedin's half a dozen community boards. But not everyone approves of the proposals. Otago Peninsula Community Board Chair Christine Gary joins us now to discuss what's going on. Good evening.
Good evening.
Tell us about the proposed changes.
Well, they have a huge effect on community boards. The boundaries of all community boards will change. 2 community boards will be hugely changed, Strathtyre and Mosgiel Tyre, and the numbers on each board will go down. And I think it's the direction it's heading in that we're most concerned about, which is the possible abolition of community boards in 6 years' time.
How will these changes affect in particular the Otago Community Board?
Otago Peninsula Community Board, the boundaries we don't have great issue with. They're pretty much as we suggested, asked for, but it will be up to the Tomahawk community to decide if they want to still be in our area or not. In terms of workload, we have a very heavy workload in our area, which is probably around the tourism layer that we have in our community, and so reducing to 4 will be difficult. Everyone on the board, on all boards, has another job, and so work commitments sometimes take you away, and so with a quorum of 3, that's difficult to get really good representation.
So why are community boards against the changes?
It's not quite that simple, Rebecca, because some of the changes they support, but overall the one we all agree on is the possible abolition of community boards we have issue with, because we believe there is great value in that representation for the communities that we represent.
Now, what have you been able to achieve in your role thus far?
Well, the big project for us came to fruition last week, and also for the Chalmers Community Board. They got their walkway cycleway money came through, and for us the same thing happened for the Portobello Harrington Point Road Safety Improvement Project, and we were absolutely delighted about it. It's been 13 years of advocacy, lobbying council, and we're very clear, both boards are very clear, that without the advocacy of the boards we would not have these projects through and across the line.
And you're calling for the public to get involved with a representation review. What are you after people to do?
We want them to submit, because at the end of the day it's going to be people in the board areas that will have the say. So they need to do that before July 27th, and it's on the DCC website, and we would really encourage the community to submit. At the end of the day it's going to be up to them what happens.
Do you think the changes are likely to be made law?
It's very possible. I think it will go to the Local Government Commission in the end at appeal, so we'll see what happens.
So what is the timeline? I mean, submissions?
It's going to, the final decision will be next year, but it's quite a long timeline.
From the Otago Peninsula Community Board, Chairwoman Christine Gary, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Rebecca.
After the break on 39 Dunedin News, we find out what an annual Clubs Day is all about, and we get an update on how things are going at the SDHB.
Do you want support for your breathing? You are not alone. In New Zealand, over 600,000 people have some form of breathing difficulty, especially with the high pollen season in New Zealand. Puff Plus is an excellent natural product developed to support lung function and breathing difficulties. Puff Plus is so effective, you get a no questions asked money-back guarantee on the first purchase. Give it a go, you have nothing to lose. Call now, 0800 502 402. Take as directed. If symptoms persist, see your healthcare professional.
Sweet dreams. Sweet dreams.
Are you within your legal rights to take one life in order to save another? Welcome to the ambiguities of law. Because whilst the law may be clear, there is still room for both yes and no.
What? No!
The decision will depend on logical thinking and the art of argument. And this is what we learn at New Zealand's first and world-renowned law faculty.
You can stop now!
I'm Latafale, and this is my place in the world.
Take your place in the world.
Discover New Zealand's most innovative museum, Toitu Otago Settlers Museum. 14 stunning galleries, 3 distinct architectural styles, and 1 million intriguing stories are yours to discover at Toitu Otago Settlers Museum. Open daily next to Dunedin Railway Station and with free admission. Toitu Otago Settlers Museum.
Quality Tailors, the alterations specialists, adjusting alterations made to measure. Quality Tailors, fitting Dunedin for over 15 years. Call 477 8028 162 Princess Street, one shop down from Darling Street.
Wake up time and another frantic day ahead for Haraway's Oat Singles. With 3 delicious flavours in each pack, they don't last long with this family. They're so convenient and tasty, and they're ready in seconds. Haraway's Oat Singles are the ideal breakfast or snack on the run for today's busy families. And there's a flavour to suit everyone. Beat the rush and make sure you get your favourite flavour. Haraway's Oat Singles. Try new Kiwi Favourites Caramel Variety Pack.
Got a hankering to create? Then head on down to Needle and Thread at 441 Princess Street. Needle and Thread is your first choice for a great range of quilting, sewing, knitting, supplies and tuition. With so many options, you will be inspired. Needle and Thread, phone 479 2771.
Every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
Pregnant? Need to talk? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Pregnancy counselling services are here to help. It's free, it's confidential. Call us now on 0800 773 462.
Here's something else to look forward to sinking your teeth into every weekend with the Otago Daily Times, the Weekend Mix, your guide to what's hot in fashion, entertainment, food and more. New weekend magazine in your ODT. Pick up your copy this Saturday.
Welcome back. Interest groups from all walks of life are competing to attract new members. A large number of students are taking the time to view stalls as part of the biannual Clubs Day at Otago University. And the event aims to help make new students feel at home and welcome back some of the regulars.
A glimpse into the diversity of the city's tertiary students. It's Clubs Day at the University of Otago. And Recreation Program Coordinator Michaela Hayes says it's all to increase the number of students involved in extracurricular groups.
I would say roughly about 1/3 of students are involved in some form or of another within a club, so whether that's just a general participant or they have a position on the committee or just coming to a one-off event, there's a lot of involvement within the clubs here.
The event is part of this year's Reorientation Week. It's slightly smaller than usual this time around, but Hayes says there's a few new stalls for attendees to learn about and potentially join.
At the start of the year, we get a lot of people through, so over about 5,000. Today we'll get at least maybe 2.5. Slightly different vibes, so we've got more of the winter sports. So some of the clubs aren't actually here today, some of the summer sports, but we've got a lot of the winter clubs coming through.
Plenty of tricks are being employed by stalls to entice the student population. But Hayes says at the end of the day, it's usually the activities themselves that draw people in. And she says the executive's careful to make sure all the clubs are appropriate for the student body.
We want to serve different purposes, so we want to have that freedom of voice, but also, not discriminating anyone or stuff like that. So normally it's up to our executive, and we have sort of a fair idea going in and presenting that information to the executive to make the decision.
Weighing up all the positives and potentially negative effects on behalf of the student population, giving the city's future leaders the chance to broaden their horizons as much as possible during their tertiary years. Ruby McAndrew, 39 Dunedin News.
The Southern District Health Board is under increasing public scrutiny. Decisions made by the organisation have caused widespread condemnation, resulting in the entire board being sacked a few weeks ago. Otago Daily Times health reporter Eileen Goodwin has been covering the story and she joins us now. Good evening.
Hello.
What are some of the major problems facing the SDHB at the moment?
Well, primarily the deficit. That was the reason given for the board being sacked by the Health Minister, who's appointed Commissioner Kathy Grant, who has appointed in turn a couple of deputies. So they've been on a bit of a regional tour at the moment, which is providing a wee bit of a honeymoon in terms of some good media coverage and meeting staff and so on. But at the same time, there's the negotiations going on to cut rural hospital funding. So last weekend we had the protest in Oamaru, at which more than 2,000 people turned up. So it's sort of quite an odd situation in a way, because you've got the board's business continuing while this new team's in place. And most recently they've had the accreditation issue in orthopaedics, which means that in 2016 Dunedin won't have any orthopaedic trainees. So that'll be certainly something that will be occupying them.
It's early days yet, but is she having an impact?
It is early days, and Kathy is certainly circumspect. I interviewed her yesterday for a profile in Saturday's ODT. She's someone who's held a lot of prominent roles in the city but has been remarkably under the radar. So obviously grandstanding is not going to be her style.
How long is she likely to be in the role?
Until the local body and DHB elections next October.
How are staff reacting to having her there?
There hasn't been a public reaction so much from staff. She says that they are welcoming her on the visits that they're doing, welcoming the move.
Is her presence having an impact on the average Dunedin city citizen?
From a service delivery perspective, no. Things continue as usual, obviously.
And what's the SDHB's financial situation looking like?
So the deficit was forecast to be up to 42 million in the coming year, so it's likely the commissioners are behind the scenes actually trying to figure out what's going on and exactly how big it is. But the Health Minister's made it clear he's not expecting that to actually be eliminated. Yeah.
ODT Health reporter Eileen Goodwin, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And now recapping tonight's top stories on 39 Dunedin News. Major progress has been made behind the scenes on Otago Museum's new planetarium with help from virtual reality technology. A financial grant is giving a Basketball Otago skills development program a big boost, with the organisation enjoying a record turnout. And years of international research is paying off for a local scientist, with the agricultural sector set to benefit as well. Well, it's time now to find out what's going to be in the pages of tomorrow's Otago Daily Times, and Barry Stewart joins us. Good evening.
Hello, Rebecca. 2 Dunedin men have been jailed for importing drugs, and a resident warns there'll be surf, sand and seashells on the streets of downtown Dunedin unless the Dunedin City Council acts on erosion of Dunedin beaches. So look out for that. A 7-metre sculpture has disappeared from the College of Education, and nobody knows where and how it disappeared. So a bit of a sculpture mystery.
What's happening in the sport lift yard?
I'm glad you asked. I thought you'd never. Well, actually, what are you going to do now that the Highlanders season's over?
Knitting.
Knitting? Well, we have a better option for you. We have 5 events to get excited about.
Ooh.
5 big sporting events coming up.
I'm already
coming
excited.
your way soon.
Okay.
Tigers' Jimmy Neesham is back in the Black Caps for their tour of South Africa. That team was named today.
Excellent. That's all in tomorrow's ODT. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
Time now for local weather.
Is proudly brought to you in association with Silverhorns Puff Plus.
And here is tonight's city view. It's taken of the Club Tower building. And around the city today at 3 o'clock, 5 degrees for the central city, 4 at the Gardens, 6 out on the Tauranga. To the situation, and the cold southerly airflow will remain for tomorrow. It's not going to die out until Saturday, when an anticyclone moves across the country. Well, to the forecast for the main towns in the lower South Island for tomorrow, a fine day is expected in Invercargill, Gore, Tiano and Alexandra, highs of around 7 or 8 degrees. And it's a fine one as well for Queenstown, Oamaru, Wanaka and Twizel, and again highs of around 7 or 8 degrees. In Dunedin tonight, showers clearing. I saw a wee bit of blue sky out there late this afternoon. Very pleasing to see indeed. 4 degrees is tonight's low. Becoming fine tomorrow and sunny with southerlies easing. Frosts are likely tomorrow night, going for a high though of 8. And on Saturday, fine and sunny, although quite chilly, with heavy frosts at night and a high of 9 degrees. Well, finally to the Southern Clams tidal and fishing information, and high tide tomorrow morning is at 10 to 11. Low tide follows at 20 to 6. And fishing still looks good, especially around 20 past 7 tomorrow morning. And that is local news for Thursday. We will join you again tomorrow. Good night.
This 39 Dunedin News Bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
I know there's too many words left unsaid. They say you have spoken like the coward I am. I hang my head. And you lay careless, your head on my chest. And don't even look at me, looking my best. And all these things I can't describe. would rather I didn't try.
Welcome to Southern Attractions. Over the next half hour, we'll take you on a virtual tour of the historic city of Dunedin and its magnificent wild landscapes. We'll introduce you to many of the features that make this place so welcoming to visitors. And we hope this show will help you decide how to enjoy our city's many attractions and inform you more about Dunedin and Otago. At 46 degrees south, about halfway between the equator and the South Pole, sits Dunedin, also known as the Edinburgh of the South, or colloquially as Dunners, and the Maori name is Ōtepoti. It's the second largest city in the South Island of New Zealand and the principal city of the Otago region. It's considered to be one of the 4 main urban centres of New Zealand for historic, cultural and geographic reasons. The Dunedin